One, two, three, four. Recording. Mic is on. Recording. Okay, what's up, everybody? It's been a minute. Gotta apologize for that, but life has kind of been hitting me and my family a little bit harder than expected going into this month of September. But we persevere and we get through things. I'm not gonna go too much into what's going on. I'm more here to serve you guys and try to give some uplift to people who need uplift about certain things, or just need that positive energy flow. That's what the Unconquered Fam podcast is all about. So welcome to the Unconquered Fam podcast, where the premise is positivity, the source is love, and the outcome is peace. Hopefully peace, whatever that means to you. Today we're talking about relationships again. This is relationship part 2. And the reason I really wanted to go into this is because last time I talked more from a couple standpoint. This time I'm talking more towards just any type of relationship, overall general, being more general with the scope in which we talk about relationships. And the first thing I want to do is go into it and talk about the premise, which is positivity. And the first point I have is connectivity. So there are about 7.5 billion people in the world. Social media and cell phones exist, and it's never been a better time than now to connect, communicate, and build with people around the world. And that's cool and all, but at the same time, you kind of have to figure out what your niche is. And what I mean by that is figure out who you are and how you come off to people, not in efforts to change yourself in totality, but more so to be aware of the unspoken relationships you may have inadvertently built with people, and vice versa. Through simply just living life, you inadvertently build relationships with people that you might not have expected to build relationships with. So this awareness allows you to be able to change if you want to change, or put efforts towards continuing to learn yourself and learn another person in order to build and foster relationships with your own recipe, so to speak. So when I say be aware of that, I mean this could be a cashier at the grocery store, or a puppy that you always see and you always play with, and you always providing positive energy, or being light about certain situations with these two people or anybody. And you have to understand that when you come in contact with anybody, anything, any animal, whatever, they relate you to something, whether that be an energy, an experience, or an expectation. And sometimes expectations aren't always equal or justified, but it's something that they relate you to that can shift the tide of whatever the relationship is you have with that person. And that can either make the tide a little, excuse me for the pause that I had to put on do not disturb, but that could either shift the tide in a good way or a bad way, depending on how you foster the relationship. And what you learn from it and how you foster those relationships it can always change and always can be evaluated from both sides and changed. So with that being said, life is trial and error, so accept it and always be willing to learn in terms of any relationship. We get into the source now. The source is love. And this is what I want to talk a little bit more about than anything, because we have to understand that you have to understand energy, and that love is a certain energy that is unmatched even by the energy that is hate. And I draw that comparison from being an athlete and hearing all the time that someone has a love for the game, because you can see it in their energy every time they hit the field, or in their preparation, even when they're tired or not having the best day and getting the results that they may want, but they still show up and work hard at whatever it is they do. So think of love in terms of relationships and connectivity. Think of love as a car that's on a winding track with hills and rough roads, but also beautiful scenery and great stops or experiences along the way. Now, that car of love that you have within any type of relationship, that energy you have, is fueled by appreciation. And all of us have this car that is in need of appreciation to keep driving around this track. Some days we drive a little fast, some days we ride slow. But we can't go anywhere without this appreciation in the tank. So in terms of relationships, find some appreciation every chance you get from every relationship, any type of relationship, whether it be big, small, whether it be with the dog that I mentioned, a little puppy, or the lady at the grocery store that's bagging groceries with whom you always have a positive connection, or whether it be a business partner. You know, if you keep the appreciation, it will keep the energy flowing, and oftentimes that energy is reciprocated and compounded, in which, the case of love is always a good thing when you're compounding energy, positive love, and everything in order to foster a more fruitful relationship between anybody. So that's how I want to talk about that in terms of the source of this podcast, which is love. Now, in order to get peace from all of this, the point I have written here is puzzle piece it together. Find where individuals fit among your balance and cultivate that into positive things. It doesn't mean you're using people or becoming that person that's only calling or communicating when you need something. But even if that's how you perceive it or somebody else perceives it, answer me this. If you work with someone or went to school with someone who has a knowledge of how to fix something simple like phone screens, every time you break your screen or have come in contact with somebody who broke their screen, you call this person up. They never say, dang, you only hit me up when you need your phone fixed. They just pick up, more than happy to help you, because you both have accepted where you fit in each other's life at both ends, and you appreciate each other for the things that you all provide to each other and have an understanding of who each other is. Even if it happened inadvertently, like I said before, any expansion or growth towards more than what you've already become with someone is up to the circumstances in which you both decide or are forced to interact, and the decisions made between you and all of those different circumstances. And I think this will hit home for a lot of people, because sometimes we look at our own desires for the relationships we want with a certain group of people or a certain person, and we go about it the wrong way. We haven't really paid attention to one another. We haven't really paid attention to one another enough to haven't really paid attention to one another to enough to. I can't talk today. It's been a while, but we haven't really paid attention to one another enough to figure out how to mesh. Relationships, in my opinion, to kind of top this off and come to a close here in the end of the podcast and open it up for any questions, because I want to start doing that too. I see relationships like kneading dough with one hand behind your back. So imagine two people side by side with one hand behind each of their backs, and they're kneading dough, like kneading dough like bread. And you got one hand free. So both of you are kneading this dough. And the ability to make this dough either rise or fall when it's in the oven is how well you knead it together. And unless you work together to make this situation, whatever the relationship is, whatever the scope of it is, unless you work together to make that better and appreciate the whole situation through the experience that you have with whoever, then you're not going to have the positive results you're looking for, because you have to have an understanding and of someone to an extent to foster that. And when you start looking at things a little bit differently now after this podcast, and you can see, all right, this is where I fit here, this is where I fit here, this is who I call for this is who I call for that, this is the things that I like to do on my own, this is who respects me doing these things on my own, this is who has an opinion about it. Whether you agree or not, this is who has an opinion about it. Those are all things that make a difference when it comes to piecing everything together in terms of identifying what relationships are between the individuals that you come in contact with. So with that being said, that's all I got today. I think it's important that people learn how to do this and decipher themselves and understand others, because we never really stop growing, and 90% of that growth is mental, and it happens after you stop growing physically. So learn how you and others can best grow together, and you'll get a lot more done that way. 10, 11 people cleaning up at once is faster than one person cleaning up at once. So I know this. I don't even know how long this podcast was today. Honestly, I don't even really care as long as the substance is there. It could be a 5-minute podcast. It can be a 20-minute podcast. But as long as the people watching it are moved or compelled to make a change for the better in their life, or continue to grow in the direction that they're growing and prosper, that's all I really wanted to do. So hey, it's been a while, but I'm back. I'll be here every 2 weeks in front of this mic. Don't know if I'll be in this room every 2 weeks, but I'll be here in front of this mic, in front of you guys. So I appreciate everybody that tunes in. I appreciate everybody that's going to tune in after the fact. And that's all I got for you today. So go out, figure yourself out, figure out where you fit with other people. Understand that, appreciate, because that's what's going to keep you going. And most of all, spread that positive energy. Love. I'm out.